Hey guys! Tonight we travel to a place where manicured lawns and multi-million-dollar smart homes hide secrets that are anything but modern. We're diving into a story about a man who vanishes from his own life, leaving behind a silence so perfect, so absolute, it screams louder than any alarm. Imagine a house where every surface gleams, every pillow is fluffed, but the owner has been erased from the picture, leaving behind only a single baffling clue. This is the kind of quiet that gets under your skin, the kind that makes you check the locks twice. A little word of warning, you probably shouldn't be listening to this alone. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a huge help. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your story begins not in the sterile glass and steel mansion where the crime takes place, but in the small, unassuming cottage next door. This is Arthur Penhaligon's world. He's a man carved from old wood and quiet routine. His face a roadmap of 60-odd years spent mostly in the company of dogs. He was once a premier canine trainer for a state police force, a job he left 2 decades ago without much explanation. Now his life is a simple loop. Wake at dawn, a long walk with his German shepherd, Echo, then hours spent in his workshop, meticulously restoring antique furniture. He's a ghost in his own neighborhood, a man who prefers the scent of sawdust and dog fur to the empty chatter of small talk. His only real companion is Echo. The dog is 10 years old with a touch of gray on his muzzle, but his eyes are still sharp, missing nothing. He's not just a pet, he's a legacy. Arthur trained him from the time he was a pup, not for police work, but to the same exacting standards. Echo moves with a silent, disciplined grace that's almost unsettling. He's a living, breathing extension of Arthur's own watchful nature. The house next door is another world entirely. It belongs to Julian Croft, a tech mogul in his late 30s who bought the plot and built his minimalist fortress a few years back. The mansion is an architectural marvel of sharp angles and sprawling windows, a monument to a life lived online. Croft is as reclusive as Arthur, but in a modern way. He doesn't garden, he automates his sprinklers from an app. He doesn't get the paper. News feeds are streamed to his wall-sized screens. Their interactions are limited to a brief, almost reluctant wave if they happen to be outside at the same time. It's a Tuesday when the pattern breaks. Arthur is out with Echo for their 6 a.m. walk, the air cool and damp. He glances at Croft's house, as he always does. The sprawling smart blinds, programmed to raise with the sun, are still down. It's a small thing, a tiny tear in the fabric of the morning, but it snags Arthur's attention. By Wednesday morning, the blinds are still down. The Financial Times, delivered daily and usually retrieved by a robotic arm Croft had proudly demonstrated once, lies in its plastic sleeve on the pristine driveway. Arthur feels a prickle of unease. He's not a nosy neighbor. He values privacy, his and others, above almost all else. But the silence from the mansion has changed. It's no longer the quiet of a man working from his home office. It's the profound stillness of an empty vessel. On Thursday morning, after seeing the third newspaper join the other two, he makes a call. He reports a potential welfare check, his voice calm and steady, even as he feels a knot of dread tightening in his stomach. He's probably overreacting, he tells himself. Croft is likely on an impromptu trip to Monaco or Tokyo. The patrol car arrives, then a detective sedan. You see Detective Harding step out, a man whose tired eyes and rumpled suit suggest he's seen it all and has little patience for anything new.
He listens to Arthur's story, his expression a perfect mask of professional skepticism. The helpful neighbor. Harding has seen this 100 times. They find a side door unlocked, a shocking lapse for a man who built a digital fortress. And as they step inside, the mystery deepens. The house is perfect. Not just clean, but sterile. It smells of glass cleaner and nothing else. The white furniture is spotless. The chrome accents gleam under the recessed lighting. In the master bedroom, the king-size bed is made with military precision. The pillows chopped just so. It looks like a luxury hotel room that's been prepped for a guest, not a bed someone just slept in. There's no sign of a struggle, no forced entry, no hint of violence. It's as if Julian Croft simply ceased to exist. This, right here, is the first twist. The pristine nature of the scene. It's too perfect. Criminologists will tell you that people, even the neatest ones, leave traces of themselves. A stray hair, a half-empty glass of water, a book left open. This place has been wiped clean of any human signature. Harding's instincts tell him this isn't a man who left on vacation. This is a scene that's been manipulated. The police immediately begin establishing a timeline, a critical component of any missing persons case that may turn into a homicide. Under what's known as the time of death, or in this case, time of disappearance window, every piece of data is crucial. They pull Croft's digital records. His last tweet was at 9:45 p.m. on Monday. His smart home system registered his last command, dimming the lights, at 10:17 p.m. After that, nothing. His phone, his credit cards, his online accounts all have gone dark. And then they find the one thing that doesn't belong. There, in the center of the vast, polished concrete floor of the living room, sits a single, unused birthday candle. It's wax, pale blue, standing upright on its little plastic base. No cake, no melted wax, no wrapper. It's just there, a tiny, absurd object in a cathedral of minimalism. It's so out of place it feels like a deliberate message, but the meaning is impossible to grasp. It's the kind of bizarre detail that derails an entire investigation. This brings up a fascinating, unresolved debate among forensic psychologists, the intentionally clean crime scene. Some argue it's the hallmark of a highly intelligent, organized killer who is confident in their ability to scrub away all evidence. Others theorize it could be a sign of a victim who staged their own disappearance, a meticulous person creating a deliberate puzzle. The ambiguity is its own form of psychological warfare against the investigators. From his yard, Arthur watches the forensics team move in and out, their white suits stark against the dark glass of the mansion. Harding walks over, his gaze sharp and questioning. "You knew his schedule pretty well for a guy you never talked to," he says. His tone casual, but the implication heavy. The irony is thick enough to choke on. Julian Croft, a man who created security software to track every moving part of a business, has vanished without a trace from his own life. His expertise in digital surveillance has only served to highlight his own disappearance. Arthur doesn't flinch under the detective's gaze. He just looks past him at Echo, who is sitting patiently at his side. But the dog isn't relaxed. His ears are pricked forward, his head is cocked, and his dark eyes are locked on the open door of Croft's house. He isn't growling or barking. He is utterly focused, a silent observer gathering data in a way the humans can't. And as you watch him, you feel it too. The training is still there, humming just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to pay off. You watch as Detective Harding's focus shifts from the sterile void of the Croft mansion to the quiet, weathered man standing beside it. In the world of law enforcement, there is a delicate legal status known as a person of interest. It's a label without formal charges, a way for investigators to signal that someone is more than just a witness. It's often applied to the last person to see the victim, the one who discovers the body, or in this case, the one who reports the disappearance. Arthur, by making that call, has unwillingly stepped from the shadows of his quiet life into the harsh spotlight of a police investigation. His helpfulness has become a liability. Harding's questions start innocently enough, a routine follow-up. "So, Mr. Penhaligon, you never went inside his house? Never had a key?" But the subtext is clear. Harding is mapping the borders of Arthur's relationship with Croft, looking for any overlap, any crack that might suggest something more than a neighborly wave. Arthur's answers are direct, clipped, and honest. No, he never went inside. No, he didn't have a key. Yes, he noticed the newspapers piling up because it was a break in a rigid routine, something a man like him would naturally observe. The detective's gaze sweeps over Arthur's simple cottage, a stark contrast to the technological marvel next door. It's old, meticulously maintained, but it belongs to another era. Mind if I take a look around your property, just to be thorough? Harding asks. It's not really a request. Arthur, knowing that refusing would only fuel suspicion, nods and leads him toward the workshop in his backyard. And it's here that Arthur's quiet eccentricity begins to work against him. The workshop is a world unto itself. Every tool hangs in its perfect place on a pegboard wall, silhouetted in black paint. Jars of screws and nails are arranged by size and type, their labels handwritten in a precise, almost calligraphic script. This level of organization could be seen as the mark of a craftsman, or the obsessive behavior of a man with something to hide. On a long workbench sit various chemicals, stains, varnishes, wood strippers. To Arthur, they are the tools of his trade. To a detective's cynical eye, they are substances that could be used for a much darker purpose. This is the first ironic twist. The very discipline and order that defined Arthur's life now make him look like a suspect. Harding picks up a small, antique wooden box from a shelf. It's filled with old, worn leather collars, each with a small brass nameplate: Max, Kaiser, Duke, Bell. You've had a lot of dogs, Harding says, his voice flat. I train, or I did. They were my partners. This detail, the collection of collars from long-dead partners, is odd. It's a sentimental gesture that, in the context of a potential homicide investigation, feels vaguely morbid. Harding puts the box down, his expression unreadable. He's building a profile in his head, a reclusive, socially awkward man with an obsessive personality and the familiarity with discipline and, let's face it, leashes. He's the perfect cliché-ridden suspect for a crime with no obvious motive. As the official search of Croft's house yields nothing, no DNA, no prints, no fibers, just that maddeningly clean space and the single blue candle, frustration begins to set in among the police. They bring in their own search dogs, standard issue bloodhounds, but the house has been so thoroughly sanitized, possibly with bleach or ozone generators, that any scent trail is gone. The dogs whine, confused, unable to lock onto anything. The tech that was supposed to make Croft's life secure has seemingly helped in his erasure, leaving no digital breadcrumbs.
Arthur watches this from his porch, Echo sitting calmly at his feet. He sees the failure of the police dogs, the shrugs of the handlers. He knows their methods. They're good dogs, but they are trained for specific, powerful scents, decomposition, blood, drugs. They are not trained for the subtle scent of a living person who has simply walked away. His dog is different. He walks over to Harding, who is staring at the mansion with a look of profound irritation. "Detective," Arthur says, his voice low, "my dog can help." Harding turns, a humorless smirk playing on his lips. "Your pet? Mr. Penhaligon, we have professionally trained search and rescue dogs. They found nothing. The scene is wiped." "He's not a pet," Arthur says, the words sharp with conviction. "And he's not a standard search dog. I trained him for passive scent discrimination. He can follow a residual scent trail, even one that's days old and faint. He can tell you where Mr. Croft was, not just where he bled." This is the second twist, the clash of methodologies. Harding is a man of the 21st century. He believes in data, in algorithms, in evidence you can see under a microscope or pull from a hard drive. Arthur is proposing something that feels archaic, almost mystical. The power of a dog's nose interpreted by a man he already suspects. His disbelief is palpable. Right, a magic dog. Look,
I appreciate your concern, but we'll stick to official police procedure. This dismissal highlights a very real and ongoing debate in the legal system: the reliability of canine scent evidence. For every case where a dog has led police to a crucial clue, there's another where the evidence was challenged in court. Experts still argue whether a dog's alert is truly objective. How much is the handler influencing the dog, even subconsciously? Is a dog indicating a scent, or is it indicating what it thinks the handler wants it to find? Because of this debate, evidence from a private citizen's dog, especially one owned by a person of interest, would be thrown out of court in a heartbeat. It's legally worthless. Harding knows this. For him, letting Arthur and his dog onto the scene would be, at best, a waste of time, and at worst, a contamination of an already compromised investigation. He waves a dismissive hand. "Go home, Mr. Penhaligam. We'll call you if we need anything else." The irony is staggering. The police are at a complete dead end. They are standing in a house that offers no clues, searching for a man who has vanished into thin air. The only potential key to unlocking the entire mystery is sitting 10 feet away, a German Shepherd whose specialized training is perfectly suited for this exact, bizarre scenario. But because the key is held by a strange, quiet man who fits a convenient profile, the authorities refuse to even try the lock. Arthur retreats to his porch, but he doesn't go inside. He sits in his rocking chair, his hand resting on Echo. The detective sees a suspicious old man stewing. But you see something else. You see a master craftsman looking at a puzzle he knows he can solve. If only they would let him use his most trusted tool. He isn't angry. He is patient. The police are looking for evidence. Arthur knows that the evidence isn't a thing to be found. It's a path to be followed. And he and Echo are the only ones who can follow it. Night falls and the official police presence around the Croft mansion dwindles. A single patrol car remains parked at the end of the long driveway, its occupant a silhouette against the glow of a smartphone. The floodlights that had bleached the crime scene are gone, and the house returns to its natural state, a dark, silent monolith under a moonless sky. For Detective Harding and his team, the day ended in failure. For Arthur Penhaligam, the workday is about to begin. You see him standing on his back porch, a shadow among shadows. He knows this is a line he shouldn't cross. Interfering with an active police investigation is a felony. Tampering with a crime scene, even with the best intentions, could land him in a jail cell and discredit any information he might uncover. But he also knows that the trail is growing colder by the hour. Whatever faint scent of Julian Croft remains is being scattered by the wind and baked away by the sun. It's now or never. This is the moment where Arthur's reclusive nature becomes his greatest asset. He spent years observing the rhythms of his neighborhood. He knows the patrol car will do a slow loop around the block every 32 minutes. He knows which of his neighbors have motion sensor lights and which have dogs that bark at falling leaves. His entire life has been a study in patterns, and he now uses that knowledge to exploit them. He gives Echo a quiet command, a soft click of the tongue. The dog rises, his movements fluid and silent. Arthur doesn't use a leash. He doesn't need one. He sloops on a pair of dark gloves and pulls a small, vacuum-sealed plastic bag from his pocket. Inside is a single leather glove, one Julian Croft dropped in his own driveway months ago. A piece of trash Arthur had picked up and, for some reason he couldn't quite explain even to himself, kept. It's an odd, almost creepy detail, the kind of thing a stalker would do. But for Arthur, it was an instinctual act of trainer, collecting a pure scent article, just in case. Under the cover of darkness, man and dog move like specters across the manicured lawn separating the two properties. They stay low, using the large, sculpted hedges as cover. This is their unofficial entry into the investigation, a direct violation of police orders. The first twist here is Arthur's transformation. The quiet, law-abiding citizen is now actively breaking the law, driven by a conviction so strong it overrides his own cautious nature. At the edge of Croft's patio, Arthur stops. He kneels beside Echo,
opens the plastic bag, and lets the dog get a deep, long sniff of the leather glove. Zuk, he whispers, the German command for seek. It's not a command for a person, but for a specific human scent. Echo's demeanor changes instantly. His body tenses with purpose. This is no longer a walk, this is the work. Echo doesn't charge off. His training is far more nuanced. He begins to scent cone, moving his head back and forth, tasting the air, pinpointing the direction of the strongest concentration of cross residual scent. He ignores the lingering traces of the police officers, the forensics team, the pizza delivery guy from a week ago. He's filtering the world through his nose, searching for one specific thread in a tapestry of smells. And here's where the dog's specialized training becomes apparent. Instead of leading away from the house, down the driveway towards a street as everyone would expect, Echo turns and moves back towards the mansion. He leads Arthur not to the front door or the unlocked side door, but to a solid-looking wall of dark cedar siding at the back of the house, near the outdoor kitchen. He stops, sits, and looks back at Arthur. It's a passive alert. He's not barking or scratching. He is simply indicating, here. Arthur runs his gloved hands over the cedar planks. They are smooth, seamless. It looks like a solid wall. But Echo is insistent. He nudges Arthur's hand with his nose, then sits again, his eyes locked on one spot. Arthur pushes, knocks, feels for a seam. Nothing. It's a dead end. The dog must be mistaken. This is the second moment of ironic tension. The tool he trusted implicitly seems to have led him to an impassable barrier. But Arthur trusts the dog more than he trusts his own eyes. He thinks about Julian Croft, the tech mogul, the man who automated everything. He wasn't a man who would build a simple wall. He was a man of secrets and hidden mechanisms. He looks closer, his fingers probing the tiny gaps between the planks. And then he finds it. Not a button or a handle, but a small, almost invisible magnetic lock, the kind used for high-end cabinetry. He remembers seeing a powerful magnetic key on Croft's keychain once when he dropped his car keys. Arthur doesn't have the key, but he has his workshop. He slips back to his house, a dark figure on a mission. He returns minutes later with a set of rare earth magnets scavenged from an old stereo speaker. He slides the powerful magnet over the wood, feeling for the telltale pull of the internal lock. He hears a soft, satisfying thunk. A section of the cedar wall, about 4 feet wide, swings silently inward, revealing a hidden door. This discovery introduces a fascinating element of criminal law, the concept of fruit of the poisonous tree. This legal doctrine states that any evidence obtained from an illegal search cannot be used in court. Arthur, by trespassing and performing an unauthorized search, has just found what could be a critical piece of the puzzle. But because of how he found it, anything inside this hidden room is now tainted. It's legally inadmissible. Detective Harding couldn't use it even if he wanted to.
Arthur takes a small pen light from his pocket and peers inside. The space is not a panic room or a vault filled with cash. It's a small, climate-controlled chamber, no bigger than a walk-in closet. And it's filled with a strange and completely unexpected collection. Lining the walls are not guns or drugs, but dozens of ornate antique bird cages. Most are empty, their brass bars gleaming. But in the center of the room, on a velvet-draped pedestal, sits one larger, intricately carved cage. And inside it, a single, pristine white feather rests on a bed of silk. The room smells faintly of cedar, birdseed, and something else, a faint metallic tang that Arthur can't quite place. It's a bizarre, secret world. Julian Croft, the cutting-edge futurist, had a hidden obsession with the past. He was a collector of antique aviaries. It's a detail so personal and so strange, it reframes the entire mystery. Why go to such lengths to hide this hobby? Echo stands at the threshold, unwilling to enter. He sniffs the air coming from the room and lets out a low, almost inaudible whine. The scent of Julian Croft is strong here, but it's mixed with something else, something that makes the dog uneasy. Arthur looks at the empty cages, the single white feather, and the hidden door. The puzzle of Croft's disappearance just got infinitely more complex. He quietly closes the secret door, the magnet engaging with a soft click. The wall is seamless once more. He knows he can't tell the police what he found. Not yet. He has the what, but he doesn't have the why. And he knows, with a sinking feeling, that the why is the most dangerous part of the story. The discovery of the secret room of bird cages changes everything, yet officially it changes nothing. Arthur is trapped by his own methods. He holds a piece of the puzzle that he cannot legally place on the table. As you watch him retreat back to the safety of his own home, the weight of that knowledge settles on him. The image of the single white feather on its silk pillow is burned into his mind. It feels like the centerpiece of a ritual, a clue left with the same deliberate, cryptic intention as the blue birthday candle in the living room. Meanwhile, Detective Harding and his team are hitting a digital brick wall. They are executing search warrants on Julian Croft's life, which exists almost entirely on servers and in the cloud. They are pulling financial records, social media data, emails, and server logs, a process governed by strict legal precedents like those established in the landmark case Carpenter versus United States, which affirmed that accessing a person's historical self-site location information constitutes a Fourth Amendment search. Every gigabyte of data they access requires a new piece of paper, a new justification for a judge. They comb through Julian Croft's digital life, and what they find is a carefully curated public image. He's a tech genius, a philanthropist on paper, a man with few close friends and no romantic attachments that they can find. His communications are all business, professional, and sterile. It's another dead end. Croft the man is as pristine and empty as his house. It's a digital ghost town. This is the first ironic twist. In an age where people overshare every detail of their lives, Croft's immense wealth and technical skill allowed him to build a digital fortress of privacy so effective that it has made him invisible even to the authorities. Frustrated, Harding's team starts looking for anomalies, for anything that breaks the pattern. And they find it not in his emails or his bank accounts, but in his server's bandwidth usage. Late at night, several times a week, there were massive data transfers from Croft's personal server to encrypted, untraceable IP addresses, the kind associated with the dark web. Croft wasn't just a consumer of technology, he was a heavy user of its hidden underbelly. This is the crack they've been looking for. Using specialized software, a forensic analyst manages to decrypt fragments of data packets that weren't properly scrubbed. And the words that flicker onto the screen are unexpected. Cetaciforms, CITES Appendex I, Moltkattern, vocal mimicry. These are not the terms of a tech mogul. They are the language of an ornithologist, or more accurately, an aviculturist, a breeder of birds. The investigation pivots. They are no longer looking for a business deal gone wrong. They are looking at the murky, high-stakes world of illegal wildlife trafficking. The CITES Appendices, Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, are international agreements to protect endangered plants and animals. Appendix I lists the most endangered species, and trade in them is virtually prohibited. For someone like Croft to be discussing these things on the dark web suggests he was involved in something far more dangerous than a simple hobby. And then comes the odd connecting detail. A junior detective, sifting through hundreds of crime scene photos for the 10th time, zooms in on the floor near where the blue candle was found. He enhances the image, adjusting the contrast. There, barely visible against a polished concrete, is something they all missed. It's a tiny, almost translucent filament. It's not a human hair or an animal fur. Under the microscope at the lab, it's identified as a barbule from a feather, a very specific type of feather, a white one. Suddenly, Arthur's secret discovery of the feather in the cage and the police's discovery of the feather fragment in the living room create a silent, invisible link between the two investigations.
The white feather now has significance. It's not just a strange object in a hidden room. It's a piece of evidence that has inexplicably crossed over from the secret world into the public one. This brings up a fascinating, unresolved theory in criminal profiling, the concept of the souvenir. Some perpetrators take a token from the crime scene, something to remember their actions by, but others leave a signature, an object that has personal meaning to them, a way of putting their stamp on the event. Experts still argue whether these signatures are a sign of arrogance and the desire to taunt police, or a subconscious ritualistic compulsion. Is the candle a message for the police? Is the feather a message for someone else? Or are they both part of a single bizarre narrative? The second twist is the nature of Croft's secret obsession. This wasn't just a man who liked birds. He was likely trafficking in some of the rarest and most protected animals on the planet. This isn't a gentleman's hobby. It's a felony that carries a prison sentence and massive fines. It's a world populated by ruthless poachers, shadowy middlemen, and obsessive collectors, willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for a single bird. The motive for his disappearance is no longer a mystery. It's money, greed, and the dangerous pursuit of a forbidden living thing. Harding's team starts digging into the world of black market aviculture. They learn that the most prized birds, like the Spix's macaw, are functionally extinct in the wild, existing only in private breeding programs. A single bird can be worth a fortune. The collectors are eccentric, secretive, and paranoid. They communicate in code, conduct business through intermediaries, and guard their collections with the same fervor as art thieves. Croft, with his technical skills and desire for privacy, would have fit in right in. Back in his house, Arthur watches the evening news report on the Croft case. The lead is that police are now investigating a new line of inquiry, but they remain tight-lipped. Arthur knows what they found. He can feel the two parallel investigations starting to bend toward each other. He looks over at Echo, who is dozing at his feet. The dog did his job perfectly. He led Arthur to the heart of the secret. But the dog's work isn't done. There's a loose thread, something that doesn't fit. The bird cages, the feather, they explain the motive, but they don't explain the pristine crime scene. They don't explain how a man could be taken from a digital fortress without a single alarm being tripped or a single security camera capturing an image. The scene wasn't just clean, it was surgically precise. That suggests an inside job, someone who knew Croft's systems, someone he trusted, someone who knew about the birds. Arthur stands up and walks to his window, looking at the dark shape of the mansion next door. The police are chasing a ghost on the internet, but Arthur suspects the real culprit is much closer to home. He's looking for a digital phantom, but the key to this crime, he feels, is something physical, something tangible, and he has a feeling Echo might be the only one who can find it.
Days have turned into a week. The yellow police tape around Julian Croft's property is starting to look faded and tired, a flimsy symbol of an investigation that's rich in theory but poor in proof. Detective Harding has a powerful motive, the illegal trade of endangered birds, but no suspect and no body. The digital trail has led them to a shadowy community of wealthy collectors, but they are all ghosts, hidden behind layers of encryption and false identities. The case is stagnating. You see Arthur Penhaligon in his yard, throwing a worn tennis ball for Echo. To any casual observer, it's just a man playing with his dog. But you know it's more than that. Arthur is watching, waiting. He's seen the police come and go. He's seen them tow away Croft's primary vehicle, a sleek black Tesla, for forensic analysis. But there's another car, one the police have glanced at but largely ignored. A vintage Aston Martin DB5, Croft's weekend indulgence, sits under a canvas cover in a detached garage at the far end of the driveway. It was deemed irrelevant, too old to have GPS tracking, its alarm system antiquated.
It was just another toy belonging to a rich man. Arthur, however, knows that obsessive collectors, whether of cars or birds, are meticulous about everything related to their passion. Croft wouldn't just leave the car, he would have prepped it for storage, protected it. The fact that it's just sitting there feels like another loose thread, another note played in the wrong key. This is where the specialized nature of Echo's training becomes crucial again. Arthur wasn't just a canine handler, he was an innovator. One of the techniques he perfected was training for passive proximity alerts. Most search dogs are trained to alert to the source of a scent. Echo was also trained to identify places where a target had been for a significant period, even if the scent itself was mostly gone. He could identify a chair someone sat in for hours, or the driver's seat of a car they frequently used. It's a subtle distinction, but a critical one. Arthur decides to act, once again under the cloak of pre-dawn twilight. This isn't about finding Croft's body, it's about finding where Croft was in the final hours. He approaches the detached garage, Echo trotting silently at his side. The garage is locked, but with a simple, old-fashioned padlock. For a man who restores antiques, this is a minor obstacle. A pair of tension wrenches and a rake pick from his workshop, and the lock clicks open in under a minute. The legality of this action is once again highly questionable. This is another instance of breaking and entering, generating more fruit of the poisonous tree. Even if he finds the murder weapon, the evidence would be thrown out. This is the first ironic twist. Arthur's quest for the truth pushes him deeper into criminality. He rolls up the garage door, revealing the iconic silver car. It's a thing of beauty, but Arthur isn't there to admire it. He gives Echo the now familiar command, "Such!" He presents the leather glove again, reinforcing the target scent. Echo begins his work, circling the vehicle. He sniffs the tires, the door handles, the exhaust pipes. He shows little interest. Croft's scent is there, but it's old, faint. Then Echo stops. He doesn't sit, he doesn't bark. He performs one of his most subtle alerts, one Arthur hasn't seen in years. He lies down, placing his head on his paws, but his eyes remain fixed on a specific spot, the lower panel of the passenger side door. It's a passive, deep contact alert. He's not just saying the scent was here, he's saying it was here, it was strong, and it was here for a long time. It suggests someone or something saturated with Croft's scent was pressed against that part of the car. Arthur runs his gloved hand over the area. He feels nothing. He inspects it with his penlight. The silver paint is flawless. This is the second moment of tension, another apparent dead end. The dog is indicating something that isn't there. But Arthur kneels, his eyes level with the dog's. He trusts the alert. What could have happened here? Perhaps someone leaned against the car? Or maybe the door was open and something was placed on the passenger seat. He tries the handle. The car is unlocked. He opens the passenger door, and the rich smell of old leather and motor oil fills the small garage. The interior is as immaculate as the outside. Arthur lets Echo sniff the passenger seat. The dog gives it a cursory pass and then returns his attention to the door panel, nudging the map pocket with his nose. Arthur pulls the elastic pocket open. It's empty, except for a few old gas receipts and a tire pressure gauge. He's about to give up when his fingers brush against something embedded deep in the plush carpet lining the bottom of the pocket. He carefully works it free with his fingertips. It's a tiny, dark object, no bigger than a grain of rice. At first, he thinks it's a piece of gravel or asphalt, but under the beam of his penlight, he sees what it is. It's a sunflower seed, a black oil sunflower seed to be precise, the kind used in high-quality bird feed. This is the unusual detail, the tiny piece that connects the two secret worlds, the bird cages and the vintage car. It's a microscopic clue that the official police search, with all its technology and manpower, completely missed. A single seed, likely fallen from the clothes of someone who had recently been handling bird feed or the birds themselves. This discovery brings up a fascinating debate in forensic science,
the significance of trace evidence. For a long time, the Locard's exchange principle, the idea that every contact leaves a trace, was the bedrock of forensics. However, modern experts argue about the problem of background noise. We all carry around dust, fibers, and particles from our environment. The challenge is proving that a specific piece of trace evidence, like this seed, is directly related to the crime and not just random contamination. Proving this seed came from Croft's secret collection would be nearly impossible in a courtroom. But Arthur doesn't need to prove it in court. He needs it to understand what happened. The seed's location is the key. It wasn't on the floor mat, where you'd expect a piece of dirt to be. It was inside the map pocket of the passenger door. This suggests the door was open and someone who had been handling the birds, or perhaps a bird itself in a small transport cage, was placed on the passenger's seat. Maybe Croft was showing off a new acquisition to someone, or maybe the perpetrator was moving one of the birds. This is the third and most crucial twist. The car wasn't a getaway vehicle. It was part of the crime scene itself. The pristine house was a staging ground, a piece of misdirection. The real event, the transfer, the confrontation, may have happened right here in this quiet garage, next to this classic car. The perpetrator didn't clean the garage because they didn't think anyone would look there. They focused all their energy on the house. Arthur gently places the seed in a small evidence bag he brought from his workshop. He now has a physical link between the victim's hidden hobby and a specific location. He looks at Echo, who is now sitting calmly, as if to say, "My job is done. The rest is up to you." Arthur gives the dog a deep scratch behind the ears. The payoff for all those years of training wasn't a dramatic discovery of a body, but this, a silent, unspoken testimony. A single seed that tells a story of a secret meeting, a transaction, and a betrayal that likely happened right where he is standing. He closes the car door, rolls down the garage door, and replaces the lock. The scene is exactly as he found it, but now, it's no longer just a garage with an old car. It's the place where it all went wrong. The discovery of the black sunflower seed in the Aston Martin acts like a key in Arthur's mind, unlocking a new series of deductions. He now possesses 3 seemingly disparate clues: the blue birthday candle, the white feather, and the sunflower seed. To the police, these are random, unconnected oddities. To Arthur, they are starting to form a coherent, if bizarre, narrative. He sits in his workshop, the 3 small evidence bags laid out on his workbench, a trinity of secrets.
He begins to piece it together. The bird cages and the dark web activity point to Julian Croft's involvement in the illegal trafficking of rare birds. The single white feather suggests a specific prized specimen. The sunflower seed found in the classic car points to a secret meeting in the garage, likely a transaction. And the pristine house? That was pure theater, designed to send the police down a rabbit hole of a clean, professional abduction, a scenario that had nothing to do with what really happened. His focus now shifts from the victim to the potential culprit. Who knew about Croft's secret? Who knew about his systems? Who was close enough to get into that garage with him? There's only one logical answer: his business partner, Marcus Thorne. You watch as Detective Harding's investigation, running parallel to Arthur's, slowly arrives at the same conclusion, albeit through a more conventional route. After hitting dead ends with the anonymous bird collectors on the dark web, they pivot to Croft's known associates. Marcus Thorne is the co-founder of their tech company, a man who presented himself as the charismatic, public-facing side of the business, while Croft was the reclusive genius behind the code. On the surface, Thorne is the picture of concerned cooperation. He's given multiple interviews expressing his shock and devastation. He's offered a substantial reward for any information. But as detectives dig into the company's financials, they uncover the first crack in his story. Despite the company's massive success, Thorne was in deep personal financial trouble. He had a gambling problem, a string of bad investments, and was leveraged to the hilt. This establishes a classic motive: greed. This is a common occurrence in white-collar crime investigations, where forensic accountants often find the first clues to a larger criminal conspiracy. Harding brings Thorne in for another interview, this time not as a helpful witness, but as a person of interest. The atmosphere in the interrogation room is thick with unspoken accusations. Thorne sticks to his story, but his bravado is beginning to fray at the edges. This is where Arthur's unofficial investigation has given him an advantage. Harding has a motive, but no physical evidence linking Thorne to the disappearance. Arthur, on the other hand, is starting to connect the symbolic clues directly to Thorne. He does what the police can't. He conducts a bit of light and highly illegal surveillance. He follows Thorne, he observes his habits, and he notices something odd. Thorne, a man who lives in a sleek, modern condo, makes a weekly trip to a small, slightly run-down pet store on the outskirts of the city. The store is called Feathered Friends. It's a strange errand for a man with no known pets. Arthur, using a bit of social engineering, visits the store himself. He strikes up a conversation with the elderly owner, pretending to be a novice bird enthusiast. He asks about high-quality feed for exotic birds. The owner mentions that he has one other customer who buys a special black oil sunflower seed mix in bulk, a fellow named Marcus. The owner describes Thorne perfectly. This is the first major twist of this section. The sunflower seed is no longer just a piece of trace evidence. It's a direct link between the crime scene in the garage and the prime suspect. The puzzle pieces start snapping into place. Thorne knew about Croft's secret because he was likely involved, acting as the middleman, the one who could move in the real world while Croft stayed hidden in his digital one. But Thorne's gambling debts grew too large. He needed more than his cut. He needed the whole prize. And what was the prize? Arthur suspects it was a single, incredibly valuable bird. He does his own research online, diving into the same forums and articles the police are studying. He learns about a legendary, almost mythical bird, the Spix macaw. Believed to be extinct in the wild, a few exist in private hands, their value almost incalculable. They are known for their stunning blue plumage, blue like the birthday candle. And then he finds a breeder's article that mentions a rare genetic mutation that can occasionally produce an all-white leucistic Spix macaw, a ghost bird, an animal so rare it would be priceless, a living masterpiece. The white feather suddenly makes perfect, horrifying sense. This leads to the second, more profound twist. The motive wasn't just about money. It was about possession. The conflict between Croft and Thorne was a classic case of a partnership imploding. Croft, the collector, wanted to possess the rare bird. Thorne, the gambler, saw it as a multi-million-dollar chip to cash in. Their secret partnership had reached a breaking point. This theory is corroborated by a real, though often debated, aspect of criminal psychology known as shared psychosis, or folie à deux, where two people in a close relationship share a delusion. In this case, it wasn't a delusion, but a shared secret obsession. Experts argue about how these dynamics can curdle, turning partners into rivals and eventually into victim and perpetrator. The intense, secretive nature of their shared interest created a pressure cooker environment that was bound to explode. The final piece of the puzzle for Arthur is the candle. It's the one thing that still feels random. He thinks about Thorne, the gambler, the showman. He thinks about the pristine house, the staged crime scene. It was all a performance. The candle was part of the show, and then it hits him. He searches online for Marcus Thorne birthday. The date is 2 days after Croft's disappearance. The blue birthday candle wasn't a random object. It was a signature, a sick celebratory message from Thorne to himself, a tiny trophy left at the scene of his victory. It was an act of pure, unadulterated hubris. Now you see the whole picture, as Arthur does. Thorne arrives at Croft's house on the night of the disappearance, likely under the pretense of delivering the bird. The transaction happens in the garage. Thorne, perhaps after getting Croft to transfer the bird's ownership papers or digital certificate of authenticity, makes his move. There's no struggle in the house because the conflict never happened there. After dealing with Croft, Thorne puts the bird, secured in a small cage, on the passenger seat of the Aston Martin, spilling a single seed, and drives away. Then he returns. He meticulously cleans the house, wiping every surface, creating a perfect, sterile mystery. He knows the police will focus on the house, on the digital evidence. He leaves the candle as a final arrogant flourish.
Now you see the whole picture, as Arthur does. Thorne arrives at Cross House on the night of the disappearance, likely under the pretense of delivering the bird. The transaction happens in the garage. Thorne, perhaps after getting Croft to transfer the bird's ownership papers or digital certificate of authenticity, makes his move. There's no struggle in the house because the conflict never happened there. After dealing with Croft, Thorne puts the bird, secured in a small cage, on the passenger seat of the Aston Martin, spilling a single seed, and drives away. Then he returns. He meticulously cleans the house, wiping every surface, creating a perfect, sterile mystery. He knows the police will focus on the house, on the digital evidence. He leaves the candle as a final arrogant flourish. Now Arthur has a complete, plausible theory of the crime, supported by evidence, albeit tainted evidence, that the police do not have. He looks at the phone, at Detective Harding's number. He knows he can't just walk in and lay it all out. They'd ask him how he knows, and his own illegal actions would come to light. He needs a way to give them the information without implicating himself. He needs to guide them to the truth, just as Echo guided him. You are now inside Arthur's quiet determination. He possesses the truth, but it's a truth wrapped in his own lawbreaking. He can't be the witness, so he must become the architect of the discovery. His plan is simple, elegant, and relies on the one thing he knows better than anyone: the predictable patterns of human behavior. He needs to get the police to look in the right place for the right reason without his fingerprints on the process. He turns to the most mundane of tools, a payphone. It's an archaic piece of technology, a relic from a time before digital footprints, which makes it perfect for his purpose. This is a classic technique used in countless real-life criminal cases to deliver anonymous tips. It provides a layer of separation that a personal cell phone with its location data and call logs can't offer. He drives to a neighboring town, his face obscured by a baseball cap and sunglasses, and makes the call to the police tip line. His voice is disguised, low and raspy. He doesn't mention birds or feathers or seeds. He keeps it simple, feeding them a story they can't ignore. He tells the operator he's a repo man who was tracking Marcus Thorne for his gambling debts. He says he saw Thorne late one night, a few days after Cross' disappearance, moving something heavy and awkward out of Cross' vintage Aston Martin and into his own car. He mentions a specific make and model, the detached garage. He suggests Thorne might be hiding assets from his creditors. He's not giving them a murder tip, he's giving them a financial crime tip. It's a believable lie rooted in the truth they've already uncovered about Thorne's financial woes. This is the first strategic twist. Arthur uses the police's own evidence against their prime suspect to guide them. The tip works like a charm. A lead about hiding assets is all Harding needs to get a new warrant, this time specifically for Marcus Thorne's vehicle and the more thorough search of the Croft garage they had initially dismissed. They were looking for a body. Now they are looking for evidence of financial concealment, which gives them a fresh legal reason to go back.
The forensics team descends on the Aston Martin, and this time, they are meticulous. They aren't just looking for blood or DNA, they're looking for anything out of place. And of course, they find it. Deep in the plush carpeting of the passenger side map pocket, a crime scene technician discovers a single black oil sunflower seed. In the context of the wider investigation into Croft's dark web activities, this tiny seed is a bombshell. It's the physical link between the crime and the secret bird trafficking. But there's more. Under the passenger seat, they find something else. Faint traces of a chemical. It's a mild sedative, a substance commonly used by veterinarians and, as they quickly learn, by traffickers to keep animals calm during transport. Thorne's betrayal is now moving from theory to provable fact. This is where the true payoff of Arthur's years of training Echo is revealed. It wasn't just about finding clues, it was about understanding the meaning of absence and presence. Echo led him to the garage not because of an overwhelming scent of a body, but because of the subtle, lingering scent of a secret meeting. That quiet, passive alert
which would have meant nothing to a standard police canine unit, was the key that unlocked the entire crime. Arthur didn't just train a dog, he trained a silent, four-legged detective capable of reading a story that no human could see. The evidence from the car is enough to bring Thorne in and break him. Faced with the seed, the sedative, and the Repo Man story, which he assumes is real, Thorne's carefully constructed composure shatters. He confesses, he tells them everything. The rare bird, the deal gone sour, the argument in the garage. He admits to killing Croft in a fit of rage and burying his body in a remote section of a state park he used to frequent as a child. The final irony is that Thorne, the smooth-talking showman, is brought down not by a complex digital trail, but a seed, a payphone call, and a dog he never even knew existed. But there's one final unusual detail, one last piece of the puzzle that even Arthur didn't anticipate: the corroborating witness. As the police are securing Thorne's confession, a separate team is executing a search warrant on his condo. They are looking for the bird, the multi-million-dollar motive. They don't find it. The cage is empty. They assume Thorne has already sold it. And then they hear it. A voice. It's coming from the master bathroom. It's a faint, scratchy voice repeating a single phrase over and over. "Julian, no. Marcus, stop. Stop it." The officers draw their weapons, thinking someone else is in the apartment. They burst into the bathroom. There's no one there. And then they see him. Perched on the shower rod is a magnificent blue macaw. It's not the mythical white one, but another of Croft's rare collection, one Thorne had apparently taken as a down payment. The bird, a known vocal mimic, had been in the garage, had witnessed the entire event. It had been listening, and it had been learning. This brings up a fascinating and highly debated legal question. Can an animal be a witness? In 1993, there was a real case in California where a defense attorney tried to introduce the testimony of a parrot who reportedly squawked, "Richard, no, no, no," after its owner was murdered. The evidence was ultimately deemed inadmissible hearsay. The courts have consistently ruled that animals cannot be sworn in, cannot be cross-examined, and their testimony is unreliable. So, the parrot's words in the Thorne case would never be used in a court of law. But it doesn't matter. The police already have a full confession. The bird's chilling mimicry is simply the final ghostly corroboration of the truth, an echo of a crime from a witness no one ever thought to question. Arthur watches the news report from his living room, Echo's head resting on his knee. He sees Thorne being led away in handcuffs, his face a mask of disbelief. The payoff wasn't a reward or public recognition. For Arthur, the payoff was the quiet satisfaction of seeing the puzzle solved. It was knowing that his life's work, the bond he shared with his dog, had brought a measure of justice to a man he barely knew. He gives Echo a gentle scratch behind the ears. The world sees a helpful neighbor and his pet, but you see a silent partnership, the trainer and his dog who saw the truth when everyone else was blind. The hum of the city fades as the last police car pulls away from Marcus Thorne's condo, leaving behind the quiet aftermath of a story that has found its end. For a time, the neighborhood had held its breath, caught in the unnerving vacuum of a man's disappearance. Now it can exhale. The truth, as it often does, came not from a single dramatic revelation, but from a series of small, patient discoveries pieced together by a man who understood the value of listening to the silence. Arthur Penelhane will return to his workshop, the scent of sawdust and wood varnish a familiar comfort, his quiet routine restored.
He and Echo will continue their morning walks, two silent figures moving through a world that is largely unaware of the vital role they played. The scales of justice were tipped not by overwhelming force, but by the weight of a single feather, a tiny seed, and the unspoken testimony of a loyal friend. Thank you for joining me on this journey tonight. These stories remind us that beneath the surface of our ordinary lives, extraordinary dramas unfold. If you found yourself leaning in a little closer, maybe holding your breath during the quiet moments, I hope you'll consider liking the video and leaving a comment. Sharing the video with someone who appreciates a good slow burn mystery helps this community grow. I'll be back soon with another case, another puzzle waiting to be pieced together from the shadows. Until then, I hope you can find some peace in the quiet of your own space.